This
Hello.
conference will now be recorded.
Hello. My name is Lea Beth Lewis, and I work at California State University, Fullerton. I have the best job in the world because my title is Assistant Director of the University Learning Center, and there's no director, so basically I assist myself. But the other reason why I have the best job on campus is because I've been given the privilege, and I call it a privilege, to be able to teach career and life planning, counseling 252, on the side, outside of my full-time staff position. And since I'm the only certified career counselor on campus, as I said, it's a real privilege for me to be able to teach this class. I've been teaching a class in this format since about 1998. Started first at Cal State Long Beach, taught it at a couple of community colleges, and then, as I said, I've been here for almost 19 years. So what I'm going to walk you through today is how I use Eureka as part of the class and as part of the assignments in the class. I think that's the more important piece here. And so that's why I have this webinar set up right here with the Eureka website, eureka.org, with the staff tools, because this is where I start. See how it says invite students and clients? This is what I do. It's really simple. I just cut and paste their email addresses from the university. I want them to use their CSUF email account, and I cut and paste them into a line, hit send, and make a little note that is automatic that says you've been invited to use Eureka, and off it goes to their email account. Now, how I use this in the classroom is they have an assignment called a career guide assignment. It's worth 100 points, which is 25% of the grade for the class. So all of this is explained to them on the first night of class, what the syllabus is about, what the expectations are from both their side and from my side. And then I always explain that adventure is out there, and they're going to get that opportunity to explore an awful lot of information. So the first week of class, we get started really fast, and I tell them that. They have an assignment due on the second night of class. It's a Monday, Wednesday class from 4 to 5:15. And at this time, the class is small. I should be clear about that too, because it's very interactive, and I want them to have that time to explore and work together. They do a lot of pair shares and trios. They do a lot of discussion. The class is listed as a lecture, but that's a staffing designation. It really isn't. It's much more of an interactive class, and Eureka really makes that happen for me easily in the classroom. So I start out by saying we're going to start fast, and then we slow down towards midterms, and then we pick it back up, and then we really slow down towards finals so that they will have the opportunity to focus on their other classes. So I've invited them to come in to use Eureka, and as you can see, I can also get a login report, and that's kind of important if I need to nudge somebody and say, hey, I see you haven't been online yet, and you have an assignment that's due in there, so I really need you to get moving on that. So that's kind of a nice thing, nice way to handle it. One of the first things that we do quickly into the semester is we do one of my favorite activities that's called the party game. And I should be clear that all of these assignments that I do in the classroom are already loaded on the Eureka website. So we have a lot of stuff that's there for people under this area here with curriculum and guides and things like that. So I start with a party game. This was created by Dick Bowles. He published it in his very first iteration of What Color is Your Parachute? And I just copied this straight out of there. And basically what it is it's the RIASEC codes, Holland codes, RIASEC codes, however which way you want to call that. And I take to the classroom pieces of paper that have RIASEC on it, and I tape them up around the room. I do this on the second week of class. And the reason why I do that quickly is I explain to them that you already know an awful lot about yourself. You already know what you like, you know what you don't like. For me, it's math. I can be very clear about that. But you already know a lot about yourself, and my job is to pull it out of you. And how we're going to do that is with a series of inventories. I don't call them tests. I don't call them assessments. I make it very clear that what we're asking them to do is just take some inventories. And the party game is one of the easiest ones to do because I get them to go to a corner of the room based upon the description for each one of the Holland codes or RIASEC codes. I give them a couple of minutes to read it. They all have it in a handout too. And then say, okay, now go to one of these areas, go to one of these corners, introduce yourself to your fellow adventurers, talk about what your major is, talk about what intrigues you about this personal area here. What intrigues you about A? Yeah, a lot of people think that A, for example, means that they have to be artistic, but not necessarily. You can be a little more creative with that. And then using the verbiage exactly as Dick Bowles set it out, I said, oh, you're not going to believe this, but everybody has left. They've gone off to another party. You need to find a new one. So they go back to their seats. They put the first letter of the first corner they went to on their sheet of paper. And of course, we repeat this now 2 more times. So by the time they get through, they've got 3 boxes on the sheet of paper with 3 letters on it. And pretty much they've met everybody in the class. But wait, there's more. One of the things that I suggest to them is, did you see anybody here that you saw a couple of times? How many? Maybe 3 times? You all landed in the same corner 3 times? That's really cool. So now you've got somebody whose name you know. They could be a study buddy. They could be somebody who you could meet up for lunch. You could, hey, maybe carpool or something like that. But really enforce the fact that the party game is just like a party. You're meeting people and figuring out who you are and what you want to do with that information. So that's the first inventory, the party game. We go through some other things because I like any class that's GE certified, mine is category E, lifelong learning. It has a textbook. So the textbook that I use and have always used for this class is On Course. We just got the 9th edition. I'm pretty excited about it because it's got a lot of stuff in there about grit and mindset and financial planning. Boy, if that's not important in today's world. So a lot of really nice stuff that's in there. So they've already done their party game. The next inventory that we do in class, actually the 4th week, is OccuSort. Now, here's how I do OccuSort in the classroom. I take it to them. I take the answer sheets and I take the lists of occupations to them. I've always done it this way. I'm open to thinking about sending them straight there to do it on EUREKA.org. But here's why I love this tool. I actually wrote a dissertation on this. The reason why I love this tool is because there's a reason why OccuSort is called a reality check. And it
Lea
is.
Beth, could you
Yep.
click on the click on OccuSort so they can see it?
Yep.
Self-assessments.
Thanks, Amar.
Perfect.
And look, there's some of those realistic things in there too, which I really love. It is a tool exactly for that, exactly for the opportunity to be realistic about who you are and what you want to do. Now, this is really neat that this is now in Eureka.org because these are all the things that I actually explain to them in the classroom. So if you don't have the time or the wherewithal to use OccuSort in the classroom, the kinds of questions that I share with students right here on the screen. So one of the things that I do is I take out maybe as a response so that they're only answering yes or no. I explain that right at the get-go that every time they circle the box or click on the box that says yes on the answer sheet, what they're saying to a prospective employer is yes, I'm willing to do this. And that is probably one of the most important things to try to get across to students. is you're not doing this 100% of the time. You're just saying, I'm willing to do this if I need to and if it's part of my job, willing and able to do this. So we go through the answer sheets, and then they fill them out and they give them back to me. On the top of the answer sheet that I use, I ask them to select 3 occupations from the occupational lists at the beginning. And we have a little conversation about, when you were a little kid and you're sitting at the dinner table and maybe it's Thanksgiving or something and your aunt or uncle or a cousin turns to you and says, Billy, what do you think you want to do when you grow up? Reflect back there. There was a reason why you answered the question that you answered. There's a story about a police officer here today that knew from the age of 5 that he wanted to be a police officer. So I use that kind of as an example. If somebody asks you that question, what did you say? That might be an occupation you want to write down on your list. Now, choose 2 more from the occupations list. And then, as I said, they go through and answer all the questions in OccuSort. I take them back and I do what's called batch processing. I put in their answers, I print out their answer sheets, their lists of occupations, and then I print out on a separate sheet of paper the why nots. Why was this occupation eliminated? Why is it, I'm going to shrink the controls, Mark. Why is this not there? So that's one of the things that I think is just so important. And the reason why it's called a reality check. Oh, wow, I had no idea that was important to that occupation. So it's a really eye-opening experience for them. The best part is when I hand them back in the classroom and they go around one by one and explain what they learned from this process and why the occupations, and in many cases, almost all of them, were eliminated because of the answers that they gave. Now, again, the reason why I do this batch processing, which, yeah, it takes a lot of time, is because if they do it online, they're going to change their answer so that they can get what they want from it. I tell them at the end, you can do that now, but I wanted you to learn something from this process there today. So that's what we do with OccuSort, and that was, again, the 4th week of class. I hand them back on the 5th week of class. Let's see here. In the 7th week of class, we do a couple of interesting activities all in one classroom session. One is called a career exchange. This was a fun thing that I created many years ago. I have little envelopes with little cards inside, and on the front of the card, on front of the envelope, it says skills, abilities, salary, educational level, and then the card is sealed, the flap is tucked inside, and then they open it up and they see the occupation that they got. And there's about, I don't know, 50 different occupations, 50 different envelopes in that folder file of all of those occupations. And of course, where I got that information from on the front of the card was from EUREKA. So I just picked out a few things that I wanted them to focus on. And what I tell them is they can go up and they can choose any card, any envelope that they want. They can trade with someone else. They can give it back to me and choose something else, but then do the big reveal. And again, it's really interesting to have conversations with students about what made you choose this particular envelope. And for many students, and clearly I don't blame them, it was based upon the salary level. The beginning salary level is really important. Clearly with a lot of financial aid hanging out there, that's important to students. But for some of them, they will say, no, this is really something that I want to do. And then they're really intrigued by the fact that it's not something they said they would ever do. But it, again, opens the door for an opportunity to talk about occupations that might be related to the one that they chose from having chosen items on the front of the envelope. So that we do in the 7th week. And then we also do the values clarification. That is assigned to them in EUREKA. We also do a fun one in the classroom with some of the interesting values where they get to bid on them with fake money. It all depends on how much time it takes us to do the career exchange, whether or not we go straight to using values in EUREKA or whether or not we can play at all with the values on sheets of paper and have them bid with money. Okay, so that's week 7. Let's see, week 9. So it's like every other week we're doing something in Eureka. Week 9 is microskills. And again, one of the ways that I like to use microskills in the classroom is to divide students into triads. And I give, each person has a sheet of paper that they bring to their little trio, and I give one person a list of all of the skills that are in microskills in their particular clusters. It's the 36 skills, 32, with all of the with with them in their clusters in the areas that they are in. And I demo this for them before I ask them to get started with it. When I say I demo that for them, is I sit with a student, pick somebody out of the crowd, and ask them to ask me questions about something that I was really proud of. Was it a job? Was it a career? Was it an activity? And it could be from anywhere. It didn't have to necessarily be work related. And so because I like to do weird, funny things, gee, there's a surprise. I bring a beanie, mittens, and a scarf that I crocheted in Cal State Fullerton colors, so that when I'm standing outside directing students to places in January when it's really cold, I know in Fullerton really cold, but really cold, so I've got my CSUF colors on, and explain how I did a lot of crocheting and knitting when I was much younger, and then had to teach myself how to do it again. And so I explained that whole process of learning how to crochet again by having the student prompt me with, and then what did you do? And then what did you do? And then what did you do? The third student who's sitting there listening to this has got the list of microskills on the sheet of paper and a blank sheet of paper with my name on it at the top. And every time that person hears me using a skill that's on the microskills list, they write it down for me. This takes quite a bit of time, so we do it in a whole class, and because it takes a whole class an hour and 15 minutes, and then every student is now walked out of the classroom with a list of skills that are related to something that was important to them. A value, an occupation, a career, an activity, something that mattered to them. And then all they have to do at that point in time is now come to microskills and put in those skills as well as all the other ones that are important to them. The reason why it takes so much time to do the whole preemptive thing with microskills in the classroom is that if you ask people straight off the bat, hey, what are your skills? What are we going to say? That would take some thought, some thinking about. So the opportunity to have them sit in groups and work together on this, first of all, they're learning a lot about their colleagues, which is really neat. And second of all, they're thinking, wow, I could do that too, or maybe I did do that also. And here's somebody that I can really relate to what we're doing with this particular activity. Again, using the fact that microskills uses basic, functional, transferable skills. The keystone of the world of work is that opportunity to be able to use transferable skills. And then as you can see on the screen, again, there's reset codes in microskills. And I'm going to come back to that in a second because there's another way that I make that connection for them. So let me just recap. We've done now at this point in time the party game with our reset codes. We've done OccuSort in the classroom. Oh, I missed something. I'm sorry. Week 6, we did true colors. And again, that's an assignment to them to do true colors, and then I do the interpretation in the classroom and have them group by whatever color was their primary color and have conversations by that. So sorry, I kind of jumped over that one, but we do that one in the 6th week. The 7th week is career exchange and the values clarification activity. And then so now they've got the basics for the 4 or 5 things that are part of their career guide paper. And that's important because in the 10th week, they go to the Career Center. Now, the reason why I send them to the Career Center is because if I didn't send them there, I don't think they would find it. Now, that seems to be, since I started here in the Career Center, one of the things that is one of those valuable things that a lot of students don't find until they're ready to graduate, and now they need to start thinking about finding a job. So I make them go. It's a classroom activity, and one of my colleagues does the presentation every year for them and walks them through all the things that are available both on the Career Center website as well as some books that they have in there, and what their role is working with students. We have industry specialists that are assigned to each college and by specialty, like College of the Arts and College of Business. And so we make sure that we connect them, whatever their major is, with somebody in that college. And so Laura goes through all the information on their website. A couple of things that they have on there is what can I do with this major? And Ferguson's guide. So they have, as well as EUREKA. So they have those things on their website, and they explain a little bit more about using those particular tools, and then really talk about what the job search process looks like, how they do on-campus recruiting, and of course they plug the individual college career fairs as well as the campus-wide job fair. So they plug all of that great stuff too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my career guide paper. And again, this is loaded into EUREKA so that you can see now that they've done all those inventories, they've gone to the Career Center. Now the rubber needs to meet the road before we get into whatever fall recess we're going to get into. So one of the things that's important to be clear about this is that how I got Counseling 252. It's always been housed in the counseling department as one of the 2 undergraduate courses that are available there in the master's program. This course had to have rigor, and part of the rigor was that there was a lot of writing in it. It's something that employers have always complained about, that our students can't write. And so every course has to have writing across the curriculum. And so when the folks that needed to evaluate the course to see if it could be assigned general education went through it, they were very pleased to see the amount of writing that the students do in this class. So we start out with, of course, the goals of the assignment, and what the purpose of it is to learn how to use electronic and resources, the Career Center, publications, all of that good stuff as a tool for their job search. I give them the choice. They can either deal with a career or a major. They can go either way. It's their paper. They need to decide which way they want to do it. I don't have an awful lot of undeclared students in this class. There are always a few, but even a student who has a declared major may be rethinking that by the time they come to this class and decide that they really want to explore something else, and that's fine too. So there's a suggestion about perhaps writing an outline as they get started with it. The paper is 6 to 8 pages. And I make it very clear that it needs to be very thorough if you're going to do it in less than that. And here's the thing that is the most fun for me and the least fun for them, is I require 6 of the 8 resources that are listed on this sheet of paper. And again, it starts out at the top with EUREKA. So doing an occupational description, using the OOH, And again, all of these are hyperlinks in the paper because the paper is also loaded into our MLS, our learning management system, and they can find, they can just click on these links. And so 6 of the 8 resources, and then they need to annotate it. They need to use modern language association. And I'm very clear about that. There is an example of it in our learning management system, very clear. And the reason why I want them to do that is, first of all, I don't want to go back and learn how to use APA. That would be issue number 1. Issue number 2 is MLA has this really neat thing that allows you to say what you liked about this or didn't like about this particular tool. So that's one of the reasons why I've always used MLA. So that's the annotation piece. And some students will still just do the citation but won't do the annotation. What did you think about this? And evaluate the resources. So they take all of this information, all of this great stuff that they've done in class and outside of class, and then these are the questions that they have to answer. They go through, and I actually, as I'm grading this, check off each of these boxes or don't. But as you can see, this is basically a Eureka occupational description. What's the name of it? Summary overview, organizations, associations, job growth, wages, all of this good stuff just fall into line with looking at a Eureka occupational description. Finding local employers, personal characteristics, that's a piece of Eureka. I have to make it clear that we're not talking about type, because I don't do type in my classroom. I like using True Colors better because it talks about how people work better in groups. And that's something that, well, frankly, most of the labor market now makes people work in groups. So that's an important piece for us. How would their values be supported in this career? Detail the very moderate and skills that they use from micro skills. Do you still think these are important skills for this career major Y? Notice that I say Y or be specific a lot of the time. And then I told you earlier that there's something fun to match up the party game with micro skills. The 3-digit code from the party game, does that match up with what they got from micro skills? What do they think about that? Rarely do people get a lot of matches with that at this point in time in their life, but it's so much fun when they get at least one letter from having done the party game and getting and going through micro skills that they got maybe one letter that was a good match. They get pretty excited about that. The last 2 questions, they are not graded on. Now that you know, what do you like? What don't you like? And then they attach all of the backup. Each thing that they did, everything has to be printed out and attached to the paper so that I can see that they've actually done the work. And then as you can see again, the paper is worth 100 points, and that is 25% of their grade. So that's how I use Eureka in the classroom in terms of the assignments that we go through the entire semester. And yeah, Amar, what questions do you have?
I think that this is really pretty complete. We are going to post this on the website so people can review this and follow through on it. And this can also be a good stepping off point for anyone to develop their own assignment and classroom rubric. So I think you've included everything, the assessments that you use and the Dick Bowles party game. We do have, I believe we have the PowerPoint of the Dick Bowles party game on the website. So users can feel free to use that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up that people are free to change and enhance and take what works and make it their own, because there's no new ideas. We all borrow freely. I have a mentor who says use and adapt, and I think we all do that. Somewhere along the line, I'm sure that somebody did a career guide assignment and I went, whoa, that's really cool, I'm going to use that, and then made it my own too. So please, that's the reason why we've shared all of this stuff with you. Please feel free to do that and make it be what you want to be, whatever is going to work for you. One last thing, at the end of the semester, every class has to have a final, and students are required to go to them. And of course, I tell them that yes, we're going to have a final, so that they will show up, because they have a final paper that they have to write. But that final paper is only 2 pages long, and it comes from the textbook that they use in the class. But I have always done this other thing, and Amar, I'm not sure that we posted this, and if not, maybe we could do it. It's a back-to-back sheet of paper, and it asks them at the top to write down all the things that we covered in class, and they only have 2 minutes to do it. And I time them and say, and you're going to have to write really fast, so write down everything we covered in the class. And so they start complaining and start writing. And when they get done with that, the next question, just on the front of the paper, I don't allow them to turn it over and look on the back, the front of the paper, it says, now do a hand up, stand up, and now go discuss your list with somebody else in the class. Write down anything you missed, and they're going to write down anything that they missed, and so that they have that whole other conversation. That is so much fun. You would not believe how loud the conversations get in the class. I don't time that one. I let it go for as long as it needs to go. By the way, I always bring treats, so they're probably munching away at this point in time anyway, and sharing. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was really fun. Or yeah, I didn't like that so much because I didn't like the fact that I didn't get any occupations on my list, or whatever. So they do that, and then when they're ready to come back to their seats, the backside of it is what was one of the most important things that you got out of this class? And the answers are varied, but to a person, it's almost like, I wish other classes were like this. I wish other classes were so directed, we're going to do this, this, and this, and they're well planned, and it's not lecture. They're talking to one another, they're learning from each other, they're having a really good time in the classroom. Almost to a person, they say, I really look forward to coming to this class. It's not about me. I don't take it personally. It really is about the content and the opportunity for them to explore for themselves who they are or who they want to be. And then the last question on there, is there something that you think I could do, if it's in my power, to enhance this class? If so, what is it? And again, so many times students just say, no, it's just great, just exactly as it is. Once in a while, I get a really good idea, and of course, I incorporate those if I can. But that's also kind of an easy, nice way to tie up the semester, and to see if what I think is important is also important to them, because that could be significantly different. And so that's a great conversation piece to have. I don't ask them for their names. There's not a spot for them to put their names down, so it is an anonymous thing for them to share that information with me. And I do keep them and go back and look through them every once in a while and see if there's a new idea that I can access or put into the system. What do you think of that, Amar?
I think that's great. And I think this, to keep in mind, you're teaching at the college level,
Right.
but anyone can use this. This can be
Yes.
adapted for high school, or it can be adapted for an adult education setting. It could be adapted, it could be adapted for rehab. There's a lot of different applications for this for rehab. And I'd encourage our viewers to contact us with their own ideas.
I
So
agree. By the way, I also did this when I taught at a extension program for one of the UCs.
great.
Because again, people coming through extension programs are people that have a lot of life experience, but not necessarily a lot of job experience. So in that vein, they're almost kind of sort of like my college students, um, with just a little bit of education maybe, or just a little bit of job experience. So thank you for bringing that up, because it's so true that, like I said, use and adapt for whatever clientele that you have.
Okay, well, Lea Beth, thank you so much.
You
And
are welcome.
we'll look forward to more of your knowledge.
Thanks so much, Amar. Thank you, everyone. Bye.